The Colts are 2-1 and atop the AFC South through 3 weeks, but that's not the only thing that has us surprised about them so far. Let's get to it.
You are Locked On Colts, your daily Indianapolis Colts podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, thanks for tuning in and making us your first listen of the day. This is your daily podcast covering your Indianapolis Colts, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I am Jake Arthur, and that is Zach Hicks, or someone from Super Troopers, or Reno 911. We're not sure. This man keeps evolving every day, and I know you guys are a big fan of it, just reading through the comments.
Yeah, I was shocked. You guys were very nice in the comment section, which much nicer than my wife when it comes to my
Yeah.
mustache. So I do appreciate that. I did trim it up a little bit more just to make it a little more even because it wasn't super even yesterday on yesterday's show. So this is a little bit cleaner cut, a little bit more even. We're gonna wear it like this for at least the rest of the week. We'll see, guys. I'm still not comfortable going out in public like this. We'll see how this evolves over the week, but I do appreciate the nice comments and all the YouTube stuff there. It does raise my self-esteem from -5 to like -3 when it comes to this. So it's great. It's great.
Online, your clout is huge, but out in public, you're just getting pummeled. Not great.
Right. I'm terrified of it.
Oh, man. Anyways, on today's show, we are surprised people. Through 3 weeks, we're going to tell you what has surprised us about the Colts so far, offensively and defensively, and then maybe what are some things to come that might still be surprising that haven't reared their head yet, whether it's positive or negative. We'll see. But first up, let's just talk about it real quick. You know, the Colts are 2-1, and I think the biggest surprising part about that is they could be 3-0. They had a late lead against the Jaguars in the fourth quarter back in week 1, so they could be 3-0, but they've done it with Anthony Richardson not even playing half the time yet. You know, he's had a couple injuries. They've done it without Jonathan Taylor. Jelani Woods is on IR. That's someone who everyone thought was going to be a huge X factor this year. So they're doing really well while being kind of shorthanded so far. Kudos to Shane Steichen and his staff for that. I mean, they're 10th in scoring as well without those guys I just mentioned, 24.7 points per game. I mean, Zach, I think we both expected them to be a little better than, you know, Vegas and the odds makers thought, but are you surprised that they're 2-1 so far? I mean, the rest of the division isn't quite there, but I mean, I think they're further along than a lot of people expected they would be.
Jake, I am wearing a mustache right now because I'm so surprised that they are 2-1 right now. I expected them to be 1-2 because I made this bet not thinking that Gardner Minshew and the Colts offense is going to be able to score enough to win that game late. So clearly, if you guys are watching on YouTube, you can see that I am shocked that the Colts are 2-1 right now. But no, this is a competitive team. They've done a lot of good things through 3 weeks. I mean, having a blowout victory over a divisional opponent in the first 3 weeks of the season with that Houston Texans team who, with what they just did to the Jaguars in week 3, that win looks a lot bigger for the Indianapolis Colts. Yeah. I mean, they dismantled that Texans team, and that Texans team that went, you know, against Jacksonville the week later and won that game handedly. So yeah, I think this Colts team is better than what we expected going into the year, at least better than what a lot of odds makers expected. It still remains to be seen what kind of team they're going to be because starting quarterback was out last week. Offense still hasn't been super productive. Like, yes, they're 10th in scoring right now with 24.7 points per game, but you know, efficiency wise and EPA per play and a lot of the advanced metrics are not really speaking too well to this Colts offense right now. You want to see a little bit more consistency with the drives. You want to get those 3 and outs going down. You want to see more. You want to see drives end with better than 50-yard field goals. You know, it's great when you have a kicker who can make those 50-yard field goals, but you'd rather them either be 30-yard field goals or be touchdowns. You know, you'd rather them be a lot more easier chances at points and higher percentage chances at points. So I think we can be really optimistic through 3 weeks, but we still have to say, hey, we're waiting and seeing with this team right now. We don't know what kind of team they are right now, outside the fact that they are a feisty, young, energetic team that really plays like this coaching staff, this young coaching staff that gets after it. This team has kind of embodied that entire personality. And the next step is actually improving on offense, taking strides on offense and being more efficient and effective there. And then on defense, cleaning up some things that are some minor issues there to continue being a top defensive unit.
I think the good part about that with offense is it should only go up from here because, again, you should be getting Anthony Richardson back. And in the limited sample size we've seen, at least we knew what he could do as a runner. That was no surprise. But he's a lot cleaner of a passer as well. Not that he doesn't have things to work out.
Yeah.
But he's surprised plenty of people with how polished he already is in the passing game.
Yeah, he's going through his reads a lot quicker than I expected, which sometimes he's going through them a little too quick. Like he's going from 1, 2, 3, 4, like within 2 seconds. And it's like, okay, Anthony, like sometimes you got to sit on one a little bit and wait for it to uncover or read the defense a little bit better there. But for the most part, I like how he's moving his feet in the pocket. I like how he's getting from read 1 to 2 to 3 to 4. I like when he's making decisions to pull it and run and decisions when to extend and find someone down the field. So when Anthony Richardson has played, I've been really impressed with his development so far. And I think it can only go, higher from here. So one of the biggest surprise for sure was in that week 1 game where it's like, yeah, Anthony Richardson didn't look phenomenal, but he looked way more polished than what I expected. I was expecting like a 40% completion percentage, some big runs, some big passes here and there, but he was an efficient short passer who mixed in some running ability as well, which was really interesting to see. So yeah, I think one of the biggest surprises through these first couple weeks is just when Richardson has played, he's looked pretty polished for the most part.
And the big assumption with an offense being led by him was that the ground game was just going to be really, really good. But like we mentioned, he's only played in 5 quarters, and Jonathan Taylor's been on the sideline and had a super clunky week 1. But without, taking all that into account, they're already a fringe top 10 rushing team. They rank 12th at 110 yards per game. You could say if they had a really bad week 1, if they would have had just a normal rushing performance, they'd be about 8th or 9th right now. So This is a really productive run team. Now, yards per carry is not great. They are running it a lot, but they are running it effectively. Like Zach Moss in the 2 weeks he's been around, great. Over 100 yards from scrimmage, touchdown in each game. This run game looks really legit. Like it could be, I'm putting the cart before the horse in terms of playoffs. I'm not saying they're going to make the playoffs, but they already look like a January running team so far with Zach Moss. And then they're going to get Richardson back and then perhaps get Jonathan Taylor back, which is something we'll get to in the third segment. But the ground game, really good so far.
Yeah, I think the biggest takeaway, though, in these last 2 weeks is Zach Moss getting nearly 200 total yards rushing with Gardner Minshew at quarterback. And that's with defenses teeing off on the run game. That's with defenses not having that threat of that quarterback pulling it and running. So what's Zach Moss going to do when Richardson is back there with that threat of running, with his ability to pull the ball, with spreading the defense a little bit wider so there's more creases in the run game? So the run game being so effective the last 2 weeks without Richardson, like with Zach Moss running without Anthony Richardson, I think that's just a really positive sign for the run game going forward. The run blocking is not perfect right now. Zach Moss's vision isn't perfect right now, but it's grinding out wins. It's grinding out really good opportunities. So I'm really excited to see what Moss and Richardson can do going forward, and also hopefully what Taylor and Richardson can do going forward after this week 4 game coming up.
Yeah, and as we saw last year, the offense can go nowhere if the offensive line isn't performing well, and they've really rebounded compared to where they were last year. And a big part of that is Bernhard Raimann has been playing really, really well. Second year, he didn't have any competition being the left tackle, and he's answered really well. And then Will Fries, which the speculation about the Colts offensive line was that they would find a new starting right guard all offseason. Like the assumption was that someone would come in and threaten Will Fries, and that hasn't been the case, and he's played pretty well.
Yeah, I feel very comfortable saying that both Bernhard Raimann and Will Fries have played at an above average level to start this season. Now, Bernhard Raimann's been a little bit more consistent than Will Fries. Will Fries had some higher peaks at times, but for the most part, they have both played at a very above average level. Will Fries is getting better each week. He's getting really sturdy in the pass game. In the run game, you still want to see a little bit more aggression and tenacity, but for the most part, he's hanging in there on both phases. And then Bernhard Raimann, for a player who looked like a revolving door at times last season, that first year that he was a starter, and just looked like a player where if there was going to be some kind of bull rush or some kind of power move, he was going to get driven back. This year, his core strength is so much better. It is so much better. He's not doing anything particularly amazing in terms of technique or finesse, or like, he's not playing like a 10-year vet on the left side, but he looks so much stronger and more comfortable and has a better base on every single pass protection play or whatever, that he's just able to withstand the pressure that's being thrown at him. And he wasn't able to do that for a lot of last year. So Bernhard Raimann taking a massive step forward, as establishing himself as the left tackle for the Colts, and Will Fries not being a liability whatsoever. Like, again, there's a couple snaps a game where Will Fries is getting beat, but for the most part, he's looking like a more consistent, like Mark Lewinsky for the most part. Like, he's looking like a more consistent version of Glowinski, because he's even better in the pass game than Glowinski was. So I think these two have been two shining stars to start this season. And I'm excited to see what they can do going forward. Big test coming up this week, especially for Will Fries, though, with Aaron Donald.
That's no doubt. I mean, Bernhard Raimann put on a bunch of solid positive weight this offseason. Last year, I mean, a lack of anchor was a big thing that showed up, and he's taken steps to rectify that. So here, coming up in a couple minutes, we're going to talk about the defensive side of the ball, a really strong group that has surprised plenty of us, even heading into this second year with Gus Bradley. But first, let's talk fantasy, and let's talk eBay Motors. Our partners at eBay Motors have teamed up with Locked On Fantasy Football host Vinny Iyer to bring you some of the best fantasy picks each week, all season long. Whether you're prepping for a daily draft or scouting the waiver wire, every week we're going to provide you players that are guaranteed to fit on your roster. So without further ado, let's see who Vinny has picked out for us on this week's eBay Guaranteed Fit Fantasy Picks of the Week. So one that really stood out to us this week, Broncos running back Javonte Williams. Really want to stay away from anything Broncos right now after they just got a 70-burger hammered on them. But it's the NFL, and it's any given Sunday, and this is kind of an intriguing matchup. So Vinny says Broncos running back Javonte Williams has gotten a healthy 48 opportunities in the first 3 games, but so far he's managed only 180 scrimmage yards and no touchdowns during the team's 0-3 start. Expect the volume to finally convert into true fantasy production for Williams as Denver gets the wilting Bears defense in Chicago in Week 4. The Bears have given up plenty of overall yardage and scoring juice to backs through the first 3 weeks, and Williams will be the latest to take advantage as a runner and outlet receiver. Remember what the Chiefs just did. So Vinny from Locked On Fantasy is going to help you guys win your fantasy championships, and eBay Motors knows a championship team is about each player being a perfect fit, and that's the same with your vehicle. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you can make sure your ride stays running smoothly. Brake kits, LED lights, roof rack bumpers, whatever your baby needs, eBay Motors has it. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, it's guaranteed to fit your ride the first time, every time, or your money back. Plus, at these prices, you're burning rubber, not cash. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com.
And Everydayers, we'll be back tomorrow morning with Crossover Thursday as we talk to the Locked On Rams host to talk all about this Colts and Rams matchup. Can the Colts take advantage of the Rams coming off a Monday night loss to the Cincinnati Bengals? We're going to talk about that all day tomorrow. All right, guys, diving into this Colts defense, obviously the talk of the hour is just how good this Colts front seven has been. Now, we've talked about this a lot the last couple weeks, and I think going into the year, you and I, Jake, were really, really high on this Colts front seven, but maybe not this high. Like, even this high is kind of insane to think about, because this Colts front seven right now, you have the numbers in front of me, so perfect for me to read them off. 23 tackles for a loss, first in the NFL, 12 sacks, which is tied for second in the NFL, 7 forced fumbles, tied for second. And then obviously the man of the hour, Zaire Franklin at linebacker, leads the NFL in tackles, leads the NFL in solo tackles. I think our boy Kenan on Twitter put a fantastic stat out there that Zaire Franklin leads all linebackers in snaps this year, but also leads all linebackers in percentage of snaps resulting in a solo tackle. Mm-hmm. So that's how far ahead he is in the NFL in tackles right now. I mean, he might hit 100 tackles by like week 7 this season. It is absolutely insane what he's doing and what the rest of this Colts front seven is doing. The defense is on pace for 68 sacks, which is an Indianapolis Colts and a Baltimore Colts record. So I told you, Jake, I told you to be a little bit more crazy in the offseason with that prediction. But yeah, this Colts front seven right now is just playing some outstanding football. I can't think of one player within that front seven who has been a negative asset for this team so far. Like, you can say some players are playing like average or like rotational level player guys, but for the most part, this front seven, everyone is playing at an average or above average level, and it's just fantastic to see.
Yeah, they're getting contributions everywhere, and again, on pace for 68 sacks. That's huge because like I didn't even want to pull the trigger on saying they'd hit 60 sacks.
Yeah.
So not only are they on pace to break the Indianapolis era record, they're on pace to fly past it. And again, it's getting spread out. Everyone seems to be getting in on the party. It's not one guy dominating all the sacks. Kwity Paye taking that solid step forward in year 3, healthy, 3 sacks. Ebukam has been great as a complement on the other side of the line. Grover Stewart's playing out of his mind. DeForest Buckner has been there. One of my pleasant surprises has been Taven Bryan, because I'll be honest, I thought he was just going to be just a guy, like just morphing into the mix, maybe provide a pressure here or there, but he's made a couple really big plays so far. And for you to be getting pass rush and harassment in the pocket from your second wave of interior defenders, like that's pretty nice. So very impressed with this group. It's been the run game too. Like again, tackles for loss leading the league. The front seven in general, EJ Speed's been nuts. He's been great. Zaire Franklin, league of his own right now.
Yeah.
I mean, I questioned yesterday, is he one of the best linebackers in the NFL? He's certainly been one of the most productive so far. There's some things he can fill in here or there to kind of add to the tool chest. But in terms of what's happening in front of him in the game, like he is diagnosing things brilliantly. And his ability to chase people down, like he basically looked like Syracuse Zaire Franklin against Louisville Lamar Jackson on Sunday. I know you know what I'm talking about there, but no, this front seven has been great. And all that with saying Shaquille Leonard has played in these first 3 games. And I mean, not to diminish anything he's contributed, but we haven't really said his name since week 1. And this is how well the Colts front seven is doing. So almost at the Jonathan Taylor type thing, but on the defensive side of the ball, once those contributions start coming in from Shaquille Leonard more and more, what level can this defense reach?
Yeah, and I wanted to touch on Shaquille Leonard for a second on this show because I've been wanting to touch on it the last couple of weeks, but we just haven't really had a time to talk about it. It's Zaire Franklin and EJ Speed are both playing at a really, really high level. Like Zaire Franklin's obviously in a league of his own. EJ Speed has been doing some really fantastic things. So Shaquille Leonard's kind of just been, I actually saw a pretty good comparison for this earlier today. It's kind of like that Anthony Walker and Anthony Walker's last season where he was rotating with Bobby Okereke, but we knew Okereke was taking over eventually. So, it was like, okay, when's it happening? And I'm not saying that Shaquille Leonard's on his way out, but to me right now, Shaquille Leonard is kind of a wild card for the team. It's kind of like a lottery ticket. If he ends up being Shaquille Leonard again, then you have 3 really high level linebackers in this second group, in this second level of the defense. But if he doesn't, which is a realistic scenario where he just doesn't get back to being Shaquille Leonard, it's not the biggest deal in the world. Like, it's horrible to say because I love Shaquille Leonard. He's been a great player for the Colts, but they have 2 guys that are playing at such a level where it kind of makes, in my mind, at least my mind as a film guy, like I don't feel the need to talk about Shaquille Leonard right now because these other 2 are playing at such a high level. I've had so many questions like, can you cut up all of Shaquille Leonard's film? Can you talk about what you've seen from Shaquille Leonard? I'm like, he's been fine, but like, there's not really much to say about him because the other 2 are playing at such a high level. And that's not like a negative thing on him. It's not an overly positive thing on those 2. It's just, as of right now, if he does become Shaquille Leonard again, awesome. Oh my gosh, that'd be incredible to have a Shaquille Leonard again with this defense. But if not, like, I think we're fine. Like, I don't, it sounds heartless to say that, but like Shaquille Leonard, I love that he's been able to get back on the field. I think he's done some good things for the team this year, but as of right now, he is the 3rd linebacker and he should be the 3rd linebacker because the other 2 are playing much better than him. And I hope he can get back to being Shaquille Leonard, but as of right now, this linebacker group is EJ Speed and Zaire Franklin. And I'm not trying to say this is a negative thing. It's just those two are playing out of their mind to start this season.
Yeah, I think you and I are in the same camp where when we talk about the linebackers, we don't want it to be about what Leonard's not doing. It's more so Franklin and Speed are just really, really standing out.
Yeah.
And mentally, Shaquille Leonard has a great football mind. He's able to diagnose things and he trusts his instincts. So I think it's only a matter of time till that all comes back around. But through these first 3 weeks, EJ Speed and Zaire Franklin have been lights out. And looking behind those guys in the secondary, one of the biggest concerns about the defense was just how green this cornerback group was. And as a group, it really has not been a detriment or a disaster or any huge negative. The Colts are showing with the coaching staff the accountability. Darrell Baker had a really rough week too, pulled from the lineup in exchange for Juju Brents making his NFL debut, and actually responded really well. So far in this whole team, because you can look at it, examples on offense too. If you're not performing well, they'll replace you. Like, not only will you just get sat on the bench, but they'll find something else to do. But cornerback has been really solid so far, despite that.
Yeah, I think they've had some blips here, and obviously the second half against the Texans wasn't great by any metric, but it was a blowout game. It's kind of hard to use that in comparison for things. But yeah, I think the cornerback group has been fine. Dallas Flowers has been really competitive on a lot of routes. Juju Brents had a really good debut. So hopefully going forward, they can keep taking those steps forward. I want to see a little more out of the safeties, but we have a lot of time to talk about that, obviously, in the coming weeks and all the games coming up. But coming up, guys, we're going to talk about what's to come from this Colts team. We're going to give some predictions on what we think could happen going forward with this Indianapolis Colts team. But first, a word from our friends over at Jase Medical. Everyone should be empowered to care for themselves and their loved ones during the unexpected. That's why Jase Medical offers the Jase Case. The Jase Case provides 5 life-saving antibiotics for emergency use and gives you peace of mind so that you're not just hoping that you have access to medication in an emergency. Jase Medical makes sure that you have the medication in hand. Jase Medical is simple. They handle everything from the online evaluation to licensed pharmacy medication delivery and ongoing consultation and care. Don't get caught unprepared. Get $20 off of these life-saving antibiotics today from Jase Medical by using my code LOCKEDON at checkout on jasemedical.com. That's Jase, Jase medical.com. All right, Jake, so getting into what's to come for this Colts team, our predictions here, I want to start off with a little bit of a banger because I know that this entire Colts fan base is so down on this player right now, but I'm telling you guys, it's there. It's coming. It's coming. I guess people think he had a drop in this past game. It was a tough catch he could have had down the sideline late in the game. You want him to see him come down with that catch, but I do think there's a big game coming for Alec Pierce soon. Maybe this is me just being that girl in a relationship with like a guy who sucks being like, no, I can change him. I can change him. Maybe that's just what I'm doing here, but I really do think it's coming. If you're watching the film the last couple of weeks, there are opportunities down the field where he's stacking his defender and getting open down the field. Obviously, there was this play this last week against the Ravens where, sure, he should have caught it or whatever you want to say with that, but he did do a good job of creating that space down the field late in the game. There was another one where Gardner Minshew just didn't slide in the pocket correctly and threw it all weird or whatever, way over Pierce's head out of bounds, where Pierce had 2 steps on his defender in a 3-by-1 set there. There was one with Anthony Richardson 2 weeks ago with the Texans where Richardson just came off the deep route too early, and that was after Richardson's concussion. So obviously we've already talked about that here on this show. There are opportunities for him down the field. It's just about converting on those opportunities and getting the ball to him accurately down the field. I do think the big game is coming. There were chances in this past game against the Ravens. There were chances in that Texans game. It's just for the majority of the year, they've had a dink and dunk quarterback in there. Even in week 1 with Anthony Richardson, Richardson was a little bit dink and dunk in that first game, just trying to get the rhythm out in the offense. So I do think when this offense opens up a little bit more and when they do start taking more chances down the field, that is where we'll see Alec Pierce shine. You know, we're seeing the receiver roles really emerge for each player. Michael Pittman Jr. is that wide receiver 1 who's going to make the tough catches over the middle. Josh Downs is third downs who's going to get you those conversions when you need it and those underneath routes. Alec Pierce is the deep threat, and that's the one thing missing from this offense right now. And it's not because he's not really converting on the deep shots. He's just not getting targeted. So once they start taking those shots down there and he has a chance to convert and he has a chance to stack and get open, I do think that missing link of the offense is going to come. So I'm telling you guys, don't give up on Alec Pierce yet. I really do think it's coming. I do think when they start taking chances down the field and they start getting those opportunities, he's going to make some things happen. And this Colts offense is going to find some efficiency and find some effectiveness going forward.
Yeah, I've seen that's just too important of a part of their plans to think it's not coming. And like you said, on the film, you can see he's doing his part mostly. It's been about missed opportunities. That drop against the Ravens, to me, that was more of a good play by the defender. Like
it was.
I think
again, you want him to make that play, but it's not a drop. Like it's a please make the play. Like that's what it is,
Right. I think he catches it if the defender doesn't rake it away. I think it's a big play otherwise. The preseason drop makes people even more sour on it, but I'm with you. I think it's coming. It's a big part of their plans. And I think there's just a couple more things that could help. I think Jonathan Taylor being back can help. Anthony Richardson being back can help. Jelani Woods being a threat. Like when everything's at full strength, the playbook's just going to open more. And again, the opportunities are there. They're just not very vertical right now. But it'll come. Looking beyond that, I mentioned Jonathan Taylor a little bit. One of my things, what's to come, I think Jonathan Taylor is going to return to Jonathan Taylor form, and it's going to be for the Colts. Now, will that be for the rest of the year? I don't know, but I think we're at least going to get a couple weeks where Jonathan Taylor looks like an absolute stud for the Colts. May not be his first game back. I also don't think they're going to give him 20 carries in his return. But that seems like his only choice is to come back and look like a healthy, good football player again, so that the Colts or another team might want to invest in him. That's really his option.
I hope he comes back for the Colts. It'd be really fun to see him in this offense, especially the way Zach Moss has been running the last couple of weeks, to have that thunder and lightning of the thunder of Zach Moss and the lightning of Jonathan Taylor. Well, lightning/thunder of Jonathan Taylor in there. It would just do wonders for this offense. It could open up a lot of things. I have to see it to believe it at this point. But I said the same thing about Shaquille Leonard's injury in the offseason. Do I think he'll ever play again? We'll have to see it to believe it. And he's playing now. So we'll see there. I'm not, I don't know. I don't know how to think about it. One more thing I do want to throw out is with this Colts defense. I am excited to see Juju Brents more in this starting role. I do think if we're looking at projection to future weeks and projection to what he's going to do coming forward, there's going to be a lot of rookie moments from him, guys. I just want everyone to get prepared for it. But the big thing I want to harp on, especially compared to the guy he replaced, is everything's going to be made at 100 miles per hour. There's going to be a lot of big hits. There's going to be a lot of, him flying downhill from his deep zone. But there will also be some holding penalties and some defensive pass interference. And there will be some times where he whiffs on tackles because he's coming downhill too much. Again, it's fine. If you're making mistakes 100 miles per hour, it's fine. But I do think in the next couple of weeks, especially against Matthew Stafford coming up, there's going to be a really grinded out game against the Tennessee Titans coming up where he's going to have to make a lot of tackles on Derrick Henry because that's just how the Titans are. I do think there's going to be some rookie mistakes from him that we're going to have to live with. But I think overall, in the long term, it's going to be positive for him. But I do think if we're projecting to the next couple of weeks, there are going to be some struggles coming for Juju Brents, and I'm excited to see how he recovers and handles those kind of struggles.
So you had mentioned Stafford, which leads me to wanting to make a very short-term prediction. I think Rodney Thomas, who, again, has just been floating around so far through 3 weeks, I think he gets his first pick of the season against Matthew Stafford this week. Stafford, that's an aggressive passer. He's not afraid to go over the middle. And, Thomas led the team with 4 picks last year as a rookie. He did a lot of cleaning up over the middle, a lot of downfield stuff. I think he gets his first pick this week. I think we've all just been waiting on that. I don't think he's having a down year. He just hasn't made the splashes so far through 3 weeks that he did last year. But I think it's coming. The Colts don't seem eager to replace him in the lineup or anything. I think Julian Blackmon has done a fine job of doing things what's in front of him, similar to, I'm not going to compare him to Zaire Franklin, but in terms of the vision and everything. I think Blackman has done a fine job cleaning up things in front of him as the strong safety. But Rodney Thomas, as the ball hawk, we knew him last year. I think it's coming, and I think it happens this Sunday against the Rams.
Awesome. Everydayers, leave a comment below what you think is yet to come for this Indianapolis Colts team. Do you think Jonathan Taylor comes back and becomes Jonathan Taylor yet again? Do you think Anthony Richardson starts airing it out down the field? Or do we just stay at this dink and dunk, Gardner Minshew-led, Zach Moss-led offense? You guys let us know in the comment section below this video. And everydayers, again, we'll be back tomorrow talking Locked On crossover with the Rams, getting ready for that big Rams-Colts matchup. So you guys want to tune in tomorrow. It's going to be a really fun show. And if you don't already, follow at Locked On Colts, at Jake Arthur NFL, and at Zach Hicks2, all on Twitter. Also, subscribe to us on YouTube, wherever you listen to your podcasts. We love your guys' ratings, reviews, and we'll see you guys back here bright and early tomorrow morning.